We're gonna try to make this real short and sweet this morning. The first four items on the agenda today, House Bill 755, 57, 58, and 63 are all bills that we have already taken up in with Senate bills. And what we did on these was to do a strike all on all the House bills and add the Senate language to it, except for on the last one, which is 763. And I would like to take all of these up in block. We've already voted on these one time in corrections already. And so we're just doing the same thing again. We just taking all of the House language out, put all the Senate language in, except for on 763. And basically what we did on 763, if you'll go to the last pages of it, the only changes, and we do have an amendment to the strike all as well on 763. And what we did on 763 was to insert the language that called for a study committee on the phase down of Parchman. And on this study committee, we would have the House chair, the Senate chair of corrections, a member appointed by the Senate from the Lieutenant Governor, a member appointed by the House, another member appointed by the House by the Speaker, one member appointed by the Governor, the Commissioner of MDOC, DPS Commissioner, and a member from the Parole Board. And that study committee will compile all the information, and Pierre will give us a report in 2025 on the phase down of Parchman. That's basically the only changes that have been made from the additional bills that we've taken up already in this committee. So, and I'm open to any questions from anyone on the committee. Senator Pillingham.
Thank you, Mr. On the study committee you're talking about, could you restate for me what the purpose of the study committee, like what's the subject matter they're going to be studying?
Be the phase down of Parchman.
Why is it that we're predetermining that it should be a phase down? Why not have the study committee look at all of the operations of Parchman, determine whether that's in the best interest of the state or whether there are other options available to the state with regard to Parchman?
I have no problem with that.
That's sort of limit their scope, and they may very well come to that conclusion, but I don't know that we should predetermine for the committee what they ought to conclude upon the completion of the study.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Thank you.
I'll offer that amendment at proper time if you would.
Proper time. You have to go ahead with the amendments. And
I think my amendment conceptually from Mr. Davidson would be for the study committee to look at Parchman in the whole and determine what its best and highest use for the state of Mississippi would be, whether that includes expanding it, keeping it as it is, or shutting it down, or anything in between.
we have an amendment on the floor. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes carried. Thank you. Is there any other questions on those? Senator Hill.
This is on the strike all, not on the study committee portion.
Yes, ma'am.
That one section that extends the repealer to 2028. Let me look and see what,
That one that we did that before, Senator Hill, on the other bills that we passed out.
question is to council. That 27, is that the parole standards from 2795 that we passed a couple years ago, or what is that we're extending to 2028?
That one section is 2026 regarding parole that you just stated. Everything else is 2028.
That's right. The only one that we are not extending the until 2028, Senator Hill, is the one that were the sheriffs, where we allowed Lee County, Harrison County, and Rankin County, those sheriffs to participate in that program. And the reason why we didn't do those to 2028 like the other, because only one sheriff department, which was Rankin County, was actually doing something. The other two hadn't done anything.
It's extending the provisions of Senate Bill 2795 to 2026. That's part of it? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the bills? If not, have a motion.
Take up in block. Take up in block.
Take them up in block, I'm sorry. First motion, take all of them up in block. Thank you. All in favor? All opposed? Ayes carried. Now we have a motion.
House Fisher do pass as amended.
House Fisher do pass as amended. Any question? All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. All right, the last one we have is the which is House Bill 844, State Parole Board to require and solicit recommendations from and provide notification to certain individuals before parole hearing. This is a request from the Attorney General's office, and we do have a representative here from the Attorney General's office to explain the bill. Thank you, Ms. Whitney. If you would, speak into the microphone, please. No, ma'am, please.
Mr. Chairman. Now it's ready? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whitney Lipscomb on behalf of the Attorney General's office. This is a bill to amend the code section that deals with parole hearings. What this bill would do would require the parole board 30 days before a parole hearing to provide notice to the Attorney General, the attorney who prosecuted the case, the judge who presided over the case, the chief of police of the municipality where the offender was convicted, and the sheriff of the county where the offender was convicted, and give them the opportunity to weigh in on the potential parole of the offender. They don't have to weigh in, but they will get notice 30 days before, and they can weigh in. This will just ensure that all of the individuals in interest who are a part of the criminal justice proceedings will have the opportunity to weigh in, to evaluate the case, and also so that if there is an issue in contacting the victim or the victim's families, some of these entities have better contact with those victims. They can ensure that the victims, their interests are taken into account, so that on the front end, you're hearing from victims, their family, and those interests. And then on the back end, the parole board will have the comfort in knowing that all of those individuals who took place in the criminal justice process, that their interests have been heard. So.
Thank you, Ms. Whitney, for that explanation of the bill. Are there any questions? Senator Thomas.
30 days before the hearing, at least 30 days, and they can either do it writing with a letter or electronically. They already provide notice to the victims if they have the victim's contact information.
This is why they are for years.
And then if it's a capital offense,
You can
they provide notice by publication. So it'd be the same form of notification they're already providing. So they wouldn't have to duplicate any of those efforts. They notice how they already prepared.
This is everybody, every case that they say they have to notify.
That's what they're saying. Are there any other questions from Senator Sparks?
Chairman, the notice that goes out, this would be on any case that has a hearing, correct?
Any case that has a hearing, yes.
All right. And of course, under the presumptive parole statutes, we shouldn't be having hearings on nonviolent offenses. So it wouldn't gum up the system with this notice provision, but when we're not doing it basically, but on the ones that require parole hearings. Is that fair?
I mean, that pursuant to the bill, it just requires it before the hearing.
Right. And then as far as the attorney who prosecuted the case and the judge who presided over the case, those people may no longer be in those roles, and I understand the legislation handles that. But when we talk about the chief of police or the sheriff, are we talking about the chief and the sheriff who were in office at the time of the event, or the current one? I just want to make sure.
As I read the bill, it would be the current chief and the current sheriff. And yes, there is a provision in here that says if the attorney who prosecuted the case or the judge who presided over the case is not living, then you should serve the DA. They should provide notice to the DA's office and a judge in that court where they were convicted.
Okay. Thank you.
Senator Fillingham?
Chairman, I was curious, what about the attorney who defended the person who's now convicted? Do they get notice?
They do not, it's not, they're not one of the specific parties, that are noticed. It's a good point.
I'm curious as to why they wouldn't be. I mean, I guess you could assume that the person incarcerated will contact that person, but they may not have the means necessary to do so. So I was just curious as to why they were left out.
Wasn't intentional. We were just thinking, in terms of the prosecution. Usually they're not apprised, of what's going on with the parole hearing. So that was the main consideration here is to give the, prosecution side. But I mean, if that's something you're interested in adding in.
I mean, I would like to be recognized for a minute at the proper time.
You're recognized.
I would simply add the attorney who defended, the defense attorney for the person who's now incarcerated would also receive notice.
Thank you. There's been a motion. Senator,
Question, Mr. Chairman.
do you have a question on the amendment?
No.
Okay, let's get the amendment passed, then we'll come back to your question. Thank you. So we have an amendment. All in favor of the amendment, let it be known by the sign of aye. All opposed? Ayes carried. Senator Brumfield.
This question, trying to get a better understanding. Did I hear you say that if a sheriff or a chief of police or someone that was involved in the case is no longer in that position, the new person who has no bearing on the case will be able to weigh in? Am I hearing that correctly?
So the way the bill's worded, it would provide notice to the current sheriff, the current chief of police, whether that was, the same person at the time I can't say, but look, the way that they would have the opportunity to weigh in, but the way that it already, is put out, they can, at any time already, parties can, anybody can weigh in on, the parole. The problem is, there's not really a mechanism to give that targeted notice to those individuals and those people who were involved in the prosecution, in the investigation, and in the trial. So they can, anybody, again, anybody across the state can weigh in on
Okay.
of the parole board to give consideration and give proper weight to this.
Do we have any other questions from any other members of the committee? If not, have a strike out. All right, this is motion, title sufficient, due pass, strike out as amended. All right. Okay, all in favor, let it be known by sign of aye. All opposed? Ayes carried, motion. Thank you all.